Hi, and welcome to Mathemagics, a short series of videos that we'll be going through during the month of March, which will cover various problem types and tricks that you will be able to use on the geometry portion of the Ohio State test for high school. This test is a graduation requirement, and I wanted to kind of go over a few things so that way people who might not be able to study otherwise will have some idea of what to be able to do going into that test, which starts on April 1st. My goal was to have a video up for every day of March, and then we will be able to have one problem a day. Now you might notice it's March 6th. So I will be doing double duty over the next few days to try to make sure that I'm caught up. I expect by about the 10th, we will have 10 videos, one for each problem. They will be fairly short in length because we're only going to be covering one problem type. But by the end of March, you will have a full 31 videos to reference. Now, today's problem is actually a really good introduction to the series because I want to show you a couple things about the types of problems. Now let's read it aloud. In the figure shown, L is the center of the circle and PQ is a chord of the circle measuring 30 centimeters. What is the length in centimeters of PL? Now you can see that we have L, which is the center of our circle right here, and that's the origin. And then we have PQ, which is a chord. A chord is any line that goes from two edges of a circle but does not cross the center. If it did cross the center, it would obviously be the diameter. And we also have this guy here, LM. And LM is an interesting little thing because it seems to be at a right angle to PQ, and we have a length for it, 8 centimeters. Now it wants to know the distance of PL. And the distance of PL, if you have thought about this for a second, that is a radius. Now, this problem on the surface looks very complicated, but fortunately for us, it has something going for it that makes it really easy. Have you seen it yet? It's a right triangle. So, because it's a right triangle, we have the ability to find the length of sides of a right triangle using the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I don't have a superscript set up yet. I'm still learning how this all sets up. But so we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, we're learning. We're learning. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we need to be able to figure out the length of that radius. Now that radius would obviously be the hypotenuse of a right triangle. So we have this, which we will label C. All right, I can't label C because, again, we're figuring this out as we go. I'll have a little drawing tablet soon, and that'll be really helpful. So this will be our hypotenuse, c squared, and the length of c squared is the square root of the sum of the squares of the sides. So we have this 8 here, but now we need PM. Well, how do we get PM, right? Well, PM is fortunately able to be found because we know the length of PQ. Now, here's some knowledge for you, all right? So if we have this length, LM, and LM goes through it is coming out from the center, and it is perpendicular to a chord. That means because it's coming out of the center and is perpendicular, that means that M is the midpoint of this chord here. Okay? So that means we know that PM is exactly half the length of PQ. And half of that would be 30. So we can set up our equation. Oh, that's not right. Where'd I put it? Oops. Well, you see the answer now. But we'll hide that. We'll pretend you didn't see it. Shh. All right. So, I screwed this up. It's okay. So, we have h squared, which is one of the sides, plus 15, half of 30, will equal c squared. So 8 squared is 64, 15 squared is 225. You own a calculator, you should use it. And then that equals c squared. All right, 64 plus 225 is 289. And the square root of that, yeah, you already saw it, is 17. So your answer for the length of PL will be 17. All right, now they want you, and notice how they write it. What is the length in centimeters of PL? Now, you're never going to give a length as, the square root of 289. No, you're never going to do that. So they want specifically 17. Okay? And they gave you all, and this is kind of a introduction. This is actually a PDF. You can actually see how up at the top, I didn't trim that properly, but again, we are figuring this out as we go. So, they have then that whole thing. All right, we have the answer, and now we're done. All right, so a couple notes before we finish up and move on. Notice that we only used part of the information. This is a literal Pythagorean theorem plug it and chug problem. Nothing crazy happened here, but it was set up in a way that looks more complicated than it is. And that's going to be a major thing on these sorts of tests. Being able to pull out what information is actually relevant in a problem, as opposed to what information is unnecessary. Now, if you didn't know that this M would exactly be a midpoint for PQ, let's say you don't know chords very well, that's okay. You can kind of imply that looking at the problem as it's presented. M looks fairly central to PQ. It looks like it's the middle. And one thing that you're going to notice, it doesn't ask you to round. Okay? If it doesn't ask you to round, that means that you're going to have an exact answer. Okay? Since you're going to have an exact answer, you can kind of make some assumptions. So, you're like, okay, so M kind of looks like the middle. We only have the length of the whole. Well, I can assume that's the middle and plug in the numbers as it's written and see how it pans out. And since the number you get is an even number, and you know you need an even exact number, therefore you can make a fairly strong assumption, even if you don't have all the information. You can make a strong assumption that that answer is what you're looking for. All right. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this inaugural episode of Mathemagics. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new problem and some more hints and tips. I hope you have a fantastic day.